Hey, do you guys want to buy a kingfish? You want to live in a crazy house even though you're not crazy? Are you in the market for two-headed monsters? If you just like listening to Mohr Stories every week, then you can help me out. Go to my website, jmohr.com, and click on the Amazon link on my website. If you're going to be shopping at Amazon anyway, why not help support Mohr Stories at the same time by going to jmohr.com, jaymohr.com, bleep, and then click on the Amazon link to their homepage, and then you can shop for whatever you want. Instead of me pushing a product on you, you can just simply go to Amazon.com through jmohr.com and get any product you want. I mean, I do a lot of favors for you, don't I? I ask you for one thing here, Henry. Go to Amazon.com through jmohr.com. Look, this is Harvey Keitel. Go to jmohr.com. Click the link. Who's going to be okay at Amazon.com through jmohr.com? Say the damn words. Do me a favor. Help us out. Help keep this podcast rolling. You know how much money I got to pay Matt Cohen every week? Go to Amazon.com through jmohr.com, and I will personally mail each of you $15 million. Part of this was made up. I am fired up. Fort Lauderdale, FLA, baby. The Improv, Friday, March 16th. I'm at the Fort Lauderdale Improv. I'm also there Saturday, March 17th. And, of course, the Cool Show, Sunday, March 18th. You know why it's cool? Because you got to go to work the next day, and you don't give a darn. As Colin Quinn would say, you don't give a care. You're going anyway, even though you got to go to work. West Palm Beach Improv, Thursday, March 22nd. Friday, March 23rd. Saturday, March 24th. Come on, peeps. Let's make it happen. And Canada? Where you at, Canada? America's tiny little hat. River Rock Casino in Richmond, British Columbia, March 30th. Thank you for listening to me blather. Now, on with the show.
Put your name on it. Just put your name on it. That's all I say. Be a man or a woman. Put your name on it.
Well, I'd like to hear about it, potheads.
How the fuck you gonna know how to be great if you don't study greatness? Look at the game tape.
Donuts.
Kitten Crawl Space in the morning, bringing you today's hottest rock from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000 and beyond. It's a fresh mix. Mohr Stories. Hey!
What?
Let me tell you something, Crawl Space. We got a big guest today. Neal Brennan is the guest today on Mohr Stories. Thank you, brother.
God. Go ahead. Keep talking. Keep talking about me.
Neal Brennan, co-creator of the Chappelle Show. I know Neal from when in his teens. Neal lived with me. He'll have a much different take on this. About living with me, I'll put in quotes, and we'll put a pin in that. It was more like a situation of serf and landowner.
Mm-hmm.
Neal
well
worked...
said.
Huh?
Well said.
Thanks.
Yep.
Neal worked at the Boston Comedy Club for a very long time that we've talked a lot about on the podcast. And then, you know, Neal was a guy like, you go, oh, that was crazy last night. It was a ridiculous party. We all got hammered. Yeah, Neal went up at the end. And we were like, oh, wow, that's so funny and great.
Right.
And then the joke's on us because now you're out headlining and we're all doing fucking podcasts.
Well.
Anyway, you're on the George Lopez show getting a standing ovation.
I did a real nice Fallon a week and a half ago, and Jay Mohr's talking to Mexicans in his garage.
Anyway, I like how on the Fallon show was a strong set, like more like an actual setting. When you do like the Lopez show, it looks like a bunch of people waiting in line to see Train. Like just everyone's just like they're not like when's he coming out? Like they're not even sure what they're waiting in line.
Yeah, they truly don't. It's like a pep rally
party.
Yeah.
La Presentera.
Yeah, no, I like doing Lopez, though, but it's a big ass room.
It's also off the air, so if you like to still do it,
look, I would love. Look, if they bring it back, guys, keep me in mind. But I like George and I like the show. You know George? You know George?
I know of him from the Laugh Factory, and I will say this: I always thought he was a great comic. You know, I was talking about this with Brendan Walsh. Like the new insult and the new way to tear someone down podcast wise, the new bad review is you kiss everyone's ass.
Right.
It's like, sorry, like you speak in superlatives and so high, it's such hyperbole. Like,
yeah.
Well, that's why they're on the fucking podcast, because I think Neal's this fascinating fucking guy.
Right. Yeah. No. Exactly.
Why don't you wash Eric Roberts' balls a little more? What am I supposed to tell him? He sucked in something?
Yeah. Exactly. That's why they're there. That's why they're here. George, but you knew George from. I used to hear you and Chappelle. I don't know if Dave talked about it much, but I used to always hear like that guy's a fucking good comic.
He was a great comic, relentless joke writer, and when the rest of us were drinking beers in Nick's t-shirts at the Laugh Factory, I remember rain, shine, sleet, snow, that guy walked through the door with a fucking suit and tie, smelled terrific, went on stage,
Right.
crushed it, got in his car, and went home. There was no hanging out.
Right.
It was an actual business, and he was the best at it.
Yeah.
And I remember going, suits on stage.
My God.
Yeah.
This is before Kings of Comedy. We didn't know anything about.
Oh, if you're bald-headed on Wednesday, come on now.
So George, the Lopez, the Fallon, it's been good so far.
When did you finally say, enough of the writing, I need to write for me, and I need to go out and do stand-up for me?
Well, I did it I did it like in 97 once, did well.
Where?
And then in Culver City, of course, at a coffee shop. Did nice. And then me and Chappelle wrote Half Baked. My thing with you, I had like a psychological issue with guys like you and Dave and Attell and the kind of guys that are my age peers, but you guys had been doing stand-up. When I met you, you guys had all been doing stand-up. You and Dave especially had been doing it 4 or 5 years.
Red Johnny and the Wrong Guy.
Red Johnny and the Wrong Guy. We'll get
Monsters.
back to that.
Heavyweights.
Animals. And also the greatest comedy team to watch bomb in the history of bombing, because they would fucking kill so hard. And it was looking back, it was a little hacky.
Super hacky. It was great.
They would do, one guy would beatbox and the other guy would do songs. And they would
check to check.
It was like a doo-wop hip-hop thing.
I'm Red Johnny and he's the round guy.
Yeah, and it was like fucking, they would either crush, it was completely binary. They would either crush or...
No, it wasn't binary. It was a 95% crush groove rate.
But when they did, there was no in-between.
You're absolutely correct.
It was absolutely no in-between. And when they bombed, it was the best, because they would turn, because they hated each other.
It was like
Otto and they would immediately turn on each other. Tim once called Johnny a cunt in a minivan in Scotland, and then went to punch Johnny and ended up punching Chappelle in the head because they were all stuck in a minivan.
And Johnny's not the guy you want to hit. John DiMaggio voiced Bender the Robot on Futurama. He's on Adventure Time as the dog. He's just one of the he's an enormous physical specimen.
Yeah.
In a 3-4 defense, he's definitely the nose tackle.
Yeah, and also, it turns out a bit of a weirdo.
Yeah.
But in a way, I couldn't tell you exactly how. Like,
I don't
disappeared
know
for 12 years.
Yeah.
But did stuff, just either didn't like comedians or didn't like hanging out in the comedy scene.
He's also one of those guys where you find out he has like... It's just a house. He's one of those guys where you find out like he has blood clots and almost died, and he's got to go on a total different diet.
Yeah.
And then you see him like at the Cat and Fiddle fucking pounding Guinness stouts, and you're like, what's going on? He's like, I don't know, dude.
And it's like you haven't seen him in 10 years, but you might as well have seen him every day for 10 years. Like
the king of the
same
he
bit,
a total
same
front
fucking,
man.
Yeah. And so anyway, so you guys had all been doing it, and I remember just thinking, like, I couldn't do it. Like, I just should. You know what it was? I found that I thought stand-up was, like, the need for attention was a low impulse. It's like, oh, that's a very low. They need attention. Bunch of fools. I don't need attention. I'll just stand in the background and give them jokes and shit. And
then simmer.
Exactly. And then quietly judge them and myself. So eventually, and then I would do it. I started doing it like in 2002. Because once you get rejected by showbiz enough, you're like, I know I'm funny. You keep telling me I'm not funny, but I'm positive I'm funny. So then you can go on stage and do stand-up. So I did it for a little bit during Chappelle Show. Then when Day went to Africa, I thought if I kept doing it, people would be like, "Where's Dave?" Meanwhile, they probably wouldn't have, but I'd stopped for like 3 years. I just basically 4.5 years ago, I'd like have done it every night, or at least tried to.
Well, I think what makes show business unique as a business is you're getting rejected by people that aren't doing what you're doing.
Right.
Like if you are a mason and you just keep fucking up walls,
Yes.
the mason guy is going to go, that's not
The
how
lead
we
mason.
we don't make walls that way. You're terrible at this. But in
Right.
stand-up, it's people that, are masons in the audience going, these jokes, that's not how you do it. Or when you go to a network, you get a suit that was just a secretary and assistant that hung around long enough. And now they're now they're assistant head of half hour at network B.
I'll take it from the audience. Look, if the audience wants to reject me, fucking fair and square.
Fair enough.
But it's gatekeepers. It's like this. It's one person's opinion. It just becomes like, yo, man, that's what made me. That's why it's like, let me just take it directly to the audience. That was me and Dave's thing with Chappelle Show when Comedy Central would be like, nah, we don't think. It's like, let's just show it to the audience. If it's no one wants to, we're not here to bomb. We don't want to fucking bomb. So if it bombs, we're wrong. We're just willing to put it up. I literally used to say to Comedy Central, like, we're not Kindler. We don't want to fucking bomb. We're not here to bomb nobly. We want to do well. Just give us a shot. If it doesn't work, we'll be the first to admit it. So at least let us be like let the audience decide. So that's what I like about stand-up is that like, it's like Larry Miller said a long time ago, like, there are no bad audiences, which that's mostly right. It's mostly right. I know it's like,
let me put a pin in that.
Yeah, no, he's wrong in a way, but what he's saying, and he's corrected it as well, you're better off thinking that it's your fault. You'll get better by thinking it's your fault.
And you know what? It's a much healthier and better for us to think there's no bad audiences because you got to be, if you want to go like Eastern with it, like water going downhill, like this audience isn't bad, I'm off. Then you're on stage in that moment forced to change and go in a different direction. Like maybe I'm cursing too much. Maybe they want more stories. You know what? I'll go to the impressions. I'll stretch it out.
Right.
So you're always, as you should be, a work in progress.
Right.
He's a magnificent bastard. I love him.
Larry Miller, I had an office in Hollywood a couple years ago. It sounds like a big deal. I had an office in Hollywood.
Go on.
It was $450 a month. It wasn't that big a deal. It was a room in a building. And my neighbor, Larry Miller, had the office next door. And it's the fucking, if you want to procrastinate, Larry Miller is the greatest fucking, because I'll be like trying to work and then Larry Miller will come sauntering by on his way to the bathroom and be like, oh, hello. And then he'll just talk for fucking 15 minutes about whatever and then you don't have to work.
And don't you feel, I find him fascinating because he's so much more of an erudite than I am and he's so much more well read that anything he says, I'm watching it like when you see like a Ferrari go down the street, you're like, wow, I don't even know how to work the pedals on that thing.
He's erudite, but Larry would also say shit like, I believe it was him who said, I love pussy. And it was coming out of his mouth was like, oh, that's the funniest thing I've ever.
You know, I
don't want to attribute that to him necessarily.
No, he actually is the first guy to say I love pussy. If you look it up on Wiki. On Larry, it's on his Wiki page.
His other great thing, this is inside baseball, but I was talking about, because him and Seinfeld and Jimmy Brogan all started together at the Strip and Bill Maher in like the late 70s. And I was like, and Jimmy Brogan now is like basically like a Benedictine monk as a person. Like he's just a fucking sweet guy, like an older gray-haired senior guy. And I go, did he ever like chase girls? And Larry goes, yeah, we used to call him Saint Jimmy the Snake. Where he would lay back, we'd all try to pounce, and then Jimmy would come and like just pull a girl aside and fuck.
I think that's a Jim Carroll play.
Yeah, exactly.
Saint Jimmy the Snake.
So then eventually I realized like, oh, I need attention. You called it a long time ago, which is in 1992. You used to make fun of me and Kevin. You would go, my brother Kevin, the comedian, Jay would go, that's good. Mr. Brennan walked around the house sucking the energy out of everybody.
Well, in all fairness, my information was based on things that you told me.
Absolutely, but you were absolutely right. I'm not saying that you're wrong to say it. Right. That was actually
it just hit my ear like, oh, that's so mean to say. And I go, no, this is what Neal told me.
No, but you would take, that was kind of your move, was you would take relatively private info, bring it to the Boston Comedy Club, and yell about it on 3rd Street.
Anyway, it's good.
It's good.
I remember listening to Frank Sinatra live at the Sands, and when he does that, awful fucking quote comedic patter,
Yeah.
end quote. You would say that's exactly like how my dad would talk. When he
Yeah,
thought
my
he was
dad
being-
stole it from him. I just didn't. It just took forever for me to realize.
How'd all these people get in my room? Like, ha ha ha.
You're so funny. I would say that like Irish Catholic guys from my dad's generation, they would only tell their wives they loved them on their like significant wedding anniversaries. Then only then in front of people, and it wouldn't be "I love you." It'd be like, "You know, I love you."
Yeah.
So